good morning, friends. So glad you're with us here. My name is Colby Martin, and I'm one of the co-pastors here at Sojourn Grace Collective, and this is our live stream virtual church service, of which the broadcast was interrupted just 3 minutes into starting at once. So I'm hoping now the broadcast will maintain. This is the first time we've run into this issue, but in the event that the feed just dies and disappears, we'll try to get it back up, so just refresh your Facebook feed or your YouTube feed. Hopefully it won't happen again. It was weird. It was an anomaly, and we'll just keep it that way. Speaking of weird and anomaly, not a big fan of the heat. So if you're in San Diego, then you can hopefully relate to us. Maybe those of you who are watching across the pond, what's the weather like where you're at? Robin, how are things going for you? Is anyone else watching from non-San Diego that can maybe make us feel better or worse about our current heat conditions? I might be pitting out by the end of this morning. Oh, I already am. Whatever. Welcome. This is the real deal here. So if you want to follow along on today's music, you can go to sojourngrace.com/virtual, where we have the lyrics for today's music. And once again, my name is Colby, and you are watching the Sojourn Grace live stream. And behind me is Ben and Karen and Matthew, and they're going to take it from here and do some music. We're glad you're with us.
I don't know how to explain it, but I know that words will hardly do. The miracles and signs and wonders aren't enough for me to prove to you. Don't you know I've always loved you? Even before there was time, and on your darkest day, I'll tell you still. Hey, don't you know I've always loved you, and I always will. Well, there is no greater love than the love that gives its life to prove that it would do anything, and that's what I'm gonna do for you. Don't you know I've always loved you? Even before there was time, and on your darkest day, I'll tell you still. Well, don't you know I've always loved you, and I always will. La, la, la. I always will. La, la, la. Don't you know I've always loved you? Even before there was time, and on your darkest day, I'll tell you still. You know I've always loved you, and I always will. La, la,
thank you for sharing about your weather conditions. Y'all are wonderful. Perhaps that should just be the question of the day, which is the time of the gathering that it is right now. But thank you for tuning in from Minneapolis and from Longmont, Colorado, and from Inland, is it Inland Empire? Did I say that correctly? I almost said Island Empire.
Inland.
Ooh, I want to be on that island empire.
The empire of the island. All right, well, now's the time. Us this morning is this. If you could travel to any country in the world, asterisk, assuming they would let you in if your passport says you're an American, if you could travel to any country right now, or maybe just imagine that the coronavirus is not a thing, just where is your dream destination country to travel to right now? Sound off in the comments and we'll see you back here in like 2 minutes and 20 some odd seconds. Yep.
What's top of your list, Ben? Where do you want to go?
I don't know. Anyway.
You want to go to New Zealand?
Inland Empire, obviously.
The Inland Empire. Sweetheart, you look a little tired. When did you last eat? Come in and make yourself right at home. Take as long as you need. Tell me, is something wrong? If something's wrong, you can count on me. You know I'll take my heart clean apart if it helps yours beat. It's okay if you can't find the words. Let me take your coat and this weight off of your shoulders. Like a force to be reckoned with, mighty ocean or a gentle kiss, I will love you with every single thing I have. tidal wave will make a mess. Calm waters if it suits you best. I will love you without any strings attached. It's okay if you can't catch your breath. You can take the oxygen straight out of my own chest.
Oh, oh, oh,
I know exactly how your rule goes. Put my mask on first. No, I don't want to talk about myself. Tell me where it hurts. Just want to build you up till you're good as new. And maybe one day I'll get around to fixing myself too. I don't even know where to start. Already trying to recall where it all fell apart. I just wanna love you, to love you, to love you well. I just wanna learn how to somehow be loved myself. Like a force to be reckoned with, mighty ocean or a gentle kiss. I will love you without any strings attached. What a privilege it is to love, a great honor to hold you up. Like a force to be reckoned with, a mighty ocean or a gentle kiss. I will love you with every single thing I have. Like a tidal wave will make a mess. Calm waters if it serves you best. I will love you without any strings attached. I will love you without a single string attached.
Good morning, Sojo. So good to be with you this morning. Ooh, I just stuck my piece of paper in a cupcake. That's fun. All right. We're going to take a moment for prayer and meditation this morning. I say prayer and meditation because a lot of us have come from traditions and from spiritual backgrounds, religious backgrounds, where prayer was all about this intercessory, transactional, ask God to make a sick person better, ask God to give us the new house that we want, ask God to fix our situations for us, that kind of thing, right? And then we kind of do this deconstruction of our old ways of seeing faith, and then we ask, what is prayer? It doesn't make sense. Thank you, Colby. It doesn't make sense to think of prayer in this way where we ask God to be this kind of person sitting up on a throne, moving pieces around like he's playing chess with our lives. So then what is prayer? And so I just wanted to share that to me, I've come to realize that prayer is a lot like Mother Teresa, Saint Teresa taught about it, that it's not about asking God for anything, but it's about praying ourselves awake. That's my paraphrasing of what she taught about prayer, which is meditation. So I try to use those two words together, prayer and meditation, to try to unite them and bring that to our minds as that is what prayer is. So this morning, as we take a moment for prayer, I just want to kind of put that in our heads as prayer is about praying ourselves awake. It's about grounding and centering and focusing and changing our interior life to be to be and to find and to make and to work towards wholeness. So I'm going to lead us in prayer and meditation this morning. I'm going to do so using the lyrics from the song Pieces by Stephanie Getzinger. Beautiful song. And I'm going to use the lyrics to the song Pieces as our meditation, and then we're going to go into the song with the band called Somehow It All Belongs. And so this is a moment, a moment for us to really address our deconstruction of our old ways of seeing and experiencing faith. This song Pieces is like this gorgeous anthem of looking backwards at who religious structures have said God is and who God is to us. And it's saying, no, that's not my God. And it's a beautiful way for us to meditate or to pray a new way of understanding and being into ourselves, that we might allow a pure love of this God who is not on a throne and who is not far away, this God that is in us and in all, and to just let that love soak us and just be drowning in it, that we might be that love out in the world as well. So I just love the pairing of these lyrics as a prayer going into this other song that's all about our deconstruction and reconstruction of this full circle, it all belongs. So as I read the lyrics to this song, I just invite you to take a pause every few lines and let the words that were just said wash over you. Maybe eyes closed if that feels more natural to you. I'm a feel weird if my eyes are closed person, so I don't typically do it when I'm praying or meditating. Whatever's comfortable for you. And just let this be a time of letting words wash over you, that you might pray yourself awake and whole and grounded and seen and loved. The love of God is wild. The love that holds all things together is untamed. God's love is wild for you. Take a moment and some deep breaths to let those words sink into your skin. God's love is wild. Her love is unashamed. She's proud of you. Have you been told something different? She's proud as a mother with a newborn babe. That is the love that is felt and experienced for you. Take a moment to let it wash over you. That is how loved you are. God does not give her love to you in pieces. She does not hide her love to tease you. Her love is uncontrolled, uncontained. Her love is a fire burning bright for you. Not a spark, not just a flame. God's love is light that all the world can see. God does not give her love to you in pieces. She does not hide her love to tease you. God's love is not fractured. It is not a troubled mind. It is not anxious. It is not the restless kind. God's love is not passive. It is never disengaged. It is always present. It hangs on every word you say. Love keeps its promises. It keeps its word. It honors what's sacred because its vows are good. If there is a love of God in this world, it is good. Take a moment to let that wash over you and sink in. God's love is not broken. It's not insecure. God's love is not selfish. It is not self-seeking. God's love is pure. She does not give her love to you in pieces. She does not hide her love to tease you. Let those words wash over you today. Just bask in them, how purely you are loved. Amen.
Sunday mornings held me in these walls. I can still smell the coffee in the halls. Safe in the place they kept for me. Home in a space of my sure belief. And I was taught to give you what I know. Lead you in the way that you should go. Love what remains when I walk away. What do you keep when I couldn't stay? 'Cause it took years to tie the truth around my fingers, to salvage all these sparks out of the cinders. Turning over tables for the love I couldn't leave. Little one, here's what I believe. You miss what you had to lose. You crave the last thing you choose. And once or twice you'll get it right. For every time you get it wrong, somehow it all belongs. Somehow it all belongs.
You will find the beauty in the light, the captivating shadow in the sunshine, the cold in your bones as the fire burns. The lesson you are is the way we learn.
And I will tie all these truths around your fingers, help you find the sparks among the cinders. I will turn over tables to defend the space for you to find your own way. You break what you try to keep. Come awake when you're fast asleep. The rhythm and the melody, the silence and the song. Somehow it all belongs. Somehow it all belongs. And there'll be grace on grace on grace on grace. There'll be grace on grace on grace. There will be grace on grace on grace. There will be grace. You pray like the someone there. Learn to bend what you can't repair. God, I hope you rock the boat till the river sways along. Somehow it all belongs. Somehow it all belongs.
Well, if you've been hanging out with us for the past few weeks, you are aware that we are in a series where we're watching movies together and then talking about those movies, which is just kind of a human thing to do, isn't it? So this week we're discussing a film called The Farewell. If you watched it, wow, you're probably a little wrecked, like me. And when you hit the end of that movie, there is this gorgeous song that comes on. And I was talking with Kate and Colby beforehand, and like in that moment, you just immediately kind of surrender yourself to what's happening in the film. You're like, this song is beautiful, just have me, have my heart, have my tears, have it all. And then afterward, you Google the song to figure out what it is, and it's actually by Leonard Cohen. I did not know, but not the rendition in the film is not Leonard's rendition, but we're gonna do that song. So if you watch the movie, you know the song probably, and it's super easy to pick up. So. Gather up the brokenness and bring it to me now. The fragrance of those promises you never dared to vow. The splinters that you carry, the cross you left behind. Come healing of the body, come healing of the mind. And let the heavens hear it, the penitential hymn. Come healing of the spirit, come healing of the limb.
Behold the gates of mercy in arbitrary space, and none of us deserving the cruelty or the grace. Oh, solitude, longing, where love has been confined. Come healing of the body, come healing of the mind. Oh, see the darkness yielding that tore the light apart. Come healing of the reason, come healing of the heart.
Oh, troubled dust concealing an undivided love, a heart beneath this teaching to the broken on above. Let the heavens falter and let the earth proclaim. Come healing of the altar, come healing of the name.
Longing of the branches to lift the little bud. Oh, longing of the arteries to purify the blood. Oh, and let the heavens hear it, the penitential hymn. Come healing of the spirit, come healing of the limb. Oh, let the heavens hear it, the penitential hymn. Come healing of the spirit, come healing of the limb.
What's wrong, Dad? Please tell me.
Your Nan is dying.
She doesn't know, so you can't say anything. The family thinks it's better not to tell her.
Why is that better?
Chinese people have saying, when people get cancer, they die. We have to go to China.
Wedding is an excuse so everyone can see her.
He's my only cousin. Did you think I should be there?
You can't hide your emotions. If you go, 奶奶 will find out right away.
Billy 呀，咋啦？咋不说话呢？今天人多齐呀，好久没这么聚了，奶奶就等着这一天呐。来，大口咬，哇！哈哈哈哈！
你觉得我们应该告诉奶奶吗？
太痛苦了吧？
如果她想说再见呢？
你告诉她就毁了她美好的心情，你说对吧？
搭到她的肩膀上。你说我都怀疑我又不在，他俩在卧室能干啥呀？
Shouldn't we tell her? Isn't it wrong to lie?
It's a good lie. Most families in China would choose not to tell her.
你们说的啥呀？
她在英国学习，所以她会说英文。
结婚了吗？
妈。
She's dying. Can you be a little more sensitive?
What do you want from me? To scream and cry like you?
因为你把生命看成是个体的，这正是西方和东方的文化差异问题。东方人是把生命看作是集体的家庭。
I want to believe that's a good thing.
因为生活呀，不光是你去做什么，更是 你如何去做？傻孩子！
好多了，好多了，好多了，再来点气儿，再来点气儿。
I got it.
Oh, yeah, we're good. Oh, family. That movie.
Hope you watched it.
I hope you watched it, and I hope if you haven't, that you hang with us, and then I hope you go watch it. Also, like, I know I get teased about this, but I can't help it. I can't with this movie, you guys. I cannot. I can't. After we watched it, we hadn't even talked yet, and Colby threw out in the text thread to the rest of the Sojourn service crew, Matthew, Ben, Karen. He's like, Kate's not going to be able to can with this movie. I can't.
You just can't.
I just can't.
You don't have to.
I don't have to. And also what's true about this movie, they tease me because every movie we watch, that's my response. I can't with it. But with this movie, it's not just me. Colby and I literally looked at each other and decided that we can't. We actually
That's
can't.
True.
Like that's what happened for us, is we decided together that we actually literally can't with this movie. Meaning that for this series, at the very beginning of the series, before we even picked the movies or anything, we came up with a structure to go through how to talk about these movies. So we kind of, have these preconceived questions, these canned questions that we use so that we have them in front of us as we watch the movie, and then we go through and make notes. And after this movie, we looked at each other and we can't do that with this film.
It wasn't going to work.
It's not going to work. You can't take a film that is that artful and that
poetic
and that efficient, for lack of a better word, at getting to the exact meaning of life and all of the experience of life. Yeah. You can't then take it and use like pre-canned questions in a format to dissect it and break it down. Like, first of all, we looked at each other like, we don't even feel right about, that old thing that conservative evangelical Christianity would use. I think it was a piece of scripture that they pulled out, of course, and contextualized to say that we shouldn't add anything to the Bible. Like, the Bible is the only word, and if you add anything to it, you're, I don't know, destroying God or something. I don't know. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's actually true with this movie. You shouldn't add anything
There's
to it.
There's something to that principle.
You shouldn't add anything to it. Saying anything about this movie actually feels kind of wrong. We're still going to.
So let's go to communion. That would be funny.
No, we're still going to talk about it a little bit, but one way to honor that experience, we're trying to speak to this experience of this movie was such gorgeous, perfect art that for us it felt almost wrong to touch it. It just feels solidified all on its own. And we felt like the way to honor that experience was to just toss our questions, like that canned format that we had. We're not using it. We do want to just kind of have a more relaxed, no format. Just speak to the heart of what, if we can. For me, mostly I'm speechless about this movie, but we're going to try to speak to what did touch us the most. Just not using that canned format because it just didn't feel like it worked for this film. This film is too much.
Yeah, I'm reminded of the parable of the ballerina.
Of course you're reminded of a parable.
It's a modern day.
Okay.
Of the ballerina who performed this gorgeous dance, and then afterwards somebody asked her, said, "That was so beautiful. What did it mean?" And she said, "Well, if I could have said what it meant, I wouldn't have to dance it." And I kind of feel like that's what this movie was like. What did the movie mean? Well,
okay, can we just go to communion?
If they could say what the meaning is, they wouldn't have to have, Lulu Wang, the director, wouldn't have had to make the movie. So
that is so perfect. Yeah. That is so perfect. Lulu Wang, what a genius, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So what do we want to speak to? Are you able to put into words? I don't know what stood out to you the most. I don't even know what to ask, but what are your thoughts? How do you feel?
I have a couple things here that I would love to say as it relates to what the movie brought out of me. Yes. So Maybe I'll start with this. This was kind of the biggest thing. And just like we said, by the way, with all the movies, even if you haven't watched the movie, we hope you can still receive some good sort of inspiring or empowering or whatever content out of these messages. The idea is not that we're just going to review the movies, but that it brings things up for us to talk about. So here's one of the things I think the film explored really well is the tension between the East and the West. So you even saw it in the trailer there. I loved that the trailer brought up a couple of my favorite lines and scenes of the movie where the main protagonist, Billy, played brilliantly by Awkwafina. Billy, so the plot of the movie, if you didn't catch from the trailer, Billy's grandma over in China gets a prognosis of like a few months to live left in cancer, and the family decides to not tell her so as to not burden her with this information of her sickness. And Billy, the main character, struggles with this. She flies over and she struggles with it, and she really thinks it's wrong and thinks that they should tell her grandma. So one of the things that gets explored in this is the tension between the East and the West. And there's a scene there where Billy's uncle says to Billy, "You've been in the West for too long." And so one of the things that I wanted to just say that brought up for me is the tension between the East and the West. So, and to reduce it down, this is way overly reductive and simplistic, but this is how the film breaks it down, so I thought I would engage with it as well, is that the West is very much sort of characterized by individualism, and whereas the East may be much more characterized by collectivism. So you have this tension between individual and the collective. And I think this movie explores this theme, this tension really well. I was listening the other day to a podcast where there's this scholar who sort of breaks down and critiques what's called neoliberalism, which is not a term I was super familiar with until recently. Neoliberalism, trying to explain sort of some of the overarching principles of economy and politics as it relates to the Western world. So capitalism fits within neoliberalism. And within neoliberalism, within the West, within much of capitalism, there is an emphasis on the individual. That life is all about you and your ability to have freedom and your rights as an individual and your empowerment as an individual. There's this quote on the Wikipedia page. Yes, I do use Wikipedia for my sermon prep from time to time. If you go to the Wikipedia page to learn about neoliberalism, there's this quote there that says this about, so think of this as the West. Think of this as aspects of capitalism, neoliberalism, that instead of citizens, and this is from Robert McChesney, instead of citizens, it produces consumers. Instead of communities, it produces shopping malls. The net result of neoliberalism, the net result of individualization, is an atomized society of disengaged individuals who feel demoralized and socially powerless. So in the West, there's so much emphasis on the individual to the detriment of the collective, to the community. And then conversely, over in the East, and again, we're painting with big, broad brushstrokes here. Over in the East, generally speaking, culture is built on this emphasis on the collective, on the community, on the larger whole, not just the individual. And the downside of that, so there's some downside to the individualism. The downside to collectivism is that freedom of thought, freedom of speech are restricted because the individual is not what matters, the whole is what matters, the group is what matters. And oftentimes truth is suppressed if truth at all disagrees with the powers that control what truth is. They create their own truth to create their own ends to their own means, and then everything else underneath that gets suppressed if it's not in line with that. Now, what seems clear to me is that extremes of both, individualism and collectivism, the extremes on both are incredibly dangerous and harmful, and we have seen and are seeing the ways that these two poles pushed to their extreme can cause incredible damage. The extreme of individualism is chaos, where everyone just looks out for themselves and doesn't consider the whole. And then the extreme of collectivism is tyranny, where no one matters, no individual matters, unless they are contributing to the good of the whole. And so I think this film plays off these two themes, or just sort of sits in this tension, sort of Billy, the character coming from America, representing this sense of, no, like we need to tell grandma, like that is what is true. The truth is that she is sick and she is dying. We need to tell her that's the right thing to do. And then the uncle represents this embodiment of the East, of the collectivism, which is life isn't just about you as an individual. The uncle says, there are things you don't understand. You moved to the West a long time ago. You think one's life belongs to oneself. I loved that line. But that is the difference between the East and the West, he says. In the East, a person's life is part of a whole, a family, a society. Maybe I'll pause right there. I didn't have some Jesus thoughts on that, but I was wondering if you had any thoughts to share or if that came up for you.
You have some Jesus thoughts?
I do, about the individualism versus collectivism, but I feel like I've been talking for a long time. So I don't know. Did you?
No. Like I said, I'm mostly speechless about this film, so keep going.
You're
I'll
good.
share
You're
my
good.
thoughts
Okay, so then just real quick. So then, as I was thinking about this tension, which I think this film sort of presents so beautifully, I don't think the film answers it. I think the film just sort of presents this tension. I didn't get the sense that they were saying collectivism is better than individualism or individualism is better than collectivism. And I think as I sort of read through the Gospels and try to study the life of Jesus, I see this dance in between these two in a very similar pattern in the life and the teachings of Jesus. There are these moments where you can see Jesus really investing in individuals, like really elevating the value of each individual person, that you are responsible for you. And there's these weird sort of enigmatic, strange sayings where someone's like, I'd love to follow you. Can I go bury my father first? Which is to say, my dad's almost on his way out. Let me go take care of family business, and then I'll come join you. And Jesus says, let the dead bury the dead. Like, no, you can't. You have to sever ties with your family if you want to be a part of this kingdom movement. There's other times where Jesus is like, if you want to be a part of the kingdom, you got to hate your mother, hate your father, hate your brother, hate your sister. Like, wait, what? What is this severing of connection to community in order to sort of be a part of this radical new type of humanity? But then, of course, collectivism shows up over and over and over again in the life and the teachings of Jesus, because the central tenet of what it means to be a Christian is to love one another, to love your neighbor as yourself, to love your enemy. Why? Because we are all connected. We are all one. Your life does not belong to you alone, as the uncle says in the movie. So this is what I see in not just the life of Jesus, but then in early Christianity, trying to figure out what might it look like to build these communities, holding both of these sort of in a symbiotic relationship where we don't go too far towards chaos, where we don't go too far towards tyranny, we don't go too far towards individualism or collectivism, but holding both together. And the early church, I think, was trying to figure that out, as they were like, yeah, everybody, we need you to contribute to the community. If you're not working, then you're not eating, but also everything you earn, throw back to the community. Like, you could see them trying to figure out how to do this sort of new way of organizing themselves. And then, of course, we could talk for ages about how that went off the rails and how we're still 2,000 years later trying to figure it out. But this was what I just loved this. I think this is really important for our current world right now, to look at how the West has radically overemphasized individualism, and we are just sinking and drowning in this capitalistic neoliberal culture where it is all about the individual at the extent of the whole. I think sometimes we glorify the East, like they've got it figured out. Socialism has it figured out. It's all about the collective. Well, no, because if you're over there, you don't get to be an individual. You don't get freedom of speech. You don't get freedom of anything. So, like, how can we push these two back towards together and hold them both? I don't know, but this movie handled that really well, and I loved it.
Laura said, because you mentioned they didn't answer it, they just portrayed the tension of it. And she said, that's what's best in art. It doesn't answer the questions of life, it presents them. So.
I like that. Well said. Okay. Why don't you share something? What did this film do for you? What did it bring up for you?
It's just so funny. You go so heady with things. Like, that was just, you're like, all the philosophical stuff, and I'm just like, I don't know, my heart is torn wide open, okay? I don't know. But yeah, for me, if I were to try to put to words the experience of watching this film, it was watching Billy. I'm so obsessed with Awkwafina, by the way. But watching Billy, so good, right? Watching Billy, the character of Billy, who I guess is Lulu Wang, right? It's based off of her life. But watching the character of Billy And there's not much character development, which I loved. It's part of why our canned questions didn't work. Is that my hair making that, or that I need to pull this out, or the fan? Okay.
I think, yeah, I'm gonna turn these fans down a little
Sorry.
bit.
Yeah.
We're trying to not die in the heat, but the fan is blowing into our microphones.
Anyway, there's not much character development, which I loved. There was no way to pick Enneagram numbers in this movie. What I loved was Billy's experience of her family and her relationship to them, and mostly what this film pointed to. What's happening?
That's me.
I feel like I shouldn't talk
No,
at all.
it's
Okay.
me. I'm walking around. I shouldn't be walking around.
Mostly what this film did is it just pointed to Billy's family's reaction to her, and that's really what you get to see of Billy. Not as much Billy's own expression of who she is, but who her family says she is. So there's most specifically this scene where her mom says to her, so her whole family is kind of reacting to her, sort of, I hate this term, but like her black sheepness of her life.
Yeah.
Like she stands out and reacts to things differently than her family's traditional way. But you don't actually see that, I would argue. You just see her family saying that it's true. So there's this moment when her mom says to her, like as an argument to why they're treating her the way they treat her, they leave her out, they purposefully keep things from her in this protective, trying to protect the thing, the tradition, the rules, the thing, and then trying to protect her too, like trying to protect everybody from her reactions or her way of doing things. There's this real controlling situation happening. And at one point, her mom looks at her and goes, "See, that right there, this is why, your face right now." And you see Billy's face, and literally she's standing there doing nothing. Like it's just her face. And I felt myself in that so much of how often, not just with my family, although so much with my family, but with culture in general, where I'm like, it's just my face, y'all. Like, I'm just standing here doing nothing. What do you mean? And there's like this, see? Because you've been pegged as this person who reacts in a way that disrupts the system. So even when you're just standing there doing nothing, sitting there doing nothing, trying to kind of peacefully exist in this world that you can't peacefully exist in, there's this, see? That right there, your face. And Billy's not doing anything. They don't really show you in the movie why her
she
family
earned that
sees her.
reputation,
Yes,
yeah.
they just show the reputation and her relationship to it. And anyway, I thought that was brilliantly done. And it made me think of you all. It made me think of, by and large, our community that has been built of mostly people who have left a thing or have stood out and been anti the establishment or kind of broken from the mold and the status quo, and what that experience is like. God, I thought of all of our very personal wounding that happens from the dysfunction of our families, and how hard it is to separate that out from our identities, to know who we are separate from how we are in relationship to the dysfunction of our family. Am I a really fiery human being, or did I just grow up in a really dysfunctional family and very aware of that and reactionary to it, you know? And maybe that's just a very personal to me experience, but I see that a lot in human beings. In fact, a lot of psychologists and therapists have this saying of the black sheep in the family is really just the person who has learned to heal themselves. And so they stand out in the family system as a black sheep. Or the problem child, and this movie addresses that so beautifully. But I thought of you all and what it's like to be in systems that are unhealthy and dysfunctional, and also how difficult it is to not only separate out your own identity from that, but to separate out the identity of your family from that. If your family is living into these systems, these status quo beliefs or religious traditions, or even no religious tied to it, just emotional health, right, or lack thereof, how hard it is to separate out human beings from those things, to see your family as actual humans, not just those people who live that way and act that way. Does that make sense? Like I look at Billy's parents, well, her whole family, but I look at Billy's parents and I'm like, it's really hard to see them as anything as other than upholders of this status quo and these traditions. And that's the struggle for all of us who've kind of broken away from a family system or a religious system, to still look back and see those folks as humans who, yes, are still sucked into this way, but they're more than that. And the way the film brilliantly took a super dysfunctional thing, this lying that turns out is very traditional, it's just what you do. The doctor says it in that trailer you saw, says, this is what people in China do. You don't tell the person that they're dying. And at one point they contrast that by showing, or not contrast, they point out how unhealthy that might be by saying, in America this would be illegal. And I thought that was beautiful because it shows that what we learn is dysfunctional. We learn that when we experience something new. When you know better, you do better. Am I Angelo, right? But that doesn't mean that the original dysfunction came from an unhealthy, evil place. And that's so hard to remember. I want to just rail against unhealthy things. This dysfunction of lying to a person, not allowing them autonomy to know. I get so ragey when I watch that film, like ragey. You're not going to tell her her own medical experience, watching everybody standing around talking about her and her not knowing. There's something in me that gets real gross about that, but the film beautifully points out that it's not coming from, it's not always that dysfunction comes from an unhealthy, bad intent. Like everything about why they're doing that is beautiful and it sucks and is dysfunctional and unhealthy. So, and I hate that. I don't want to say it out loud because I don't want it to be true. I want to just be like, bad is bad, period. And the film doesn't let you do that.
No, that was one of my favorite things about watching the journey of Billy throughout the film, of moving from this very right-wrong dualistic way of thinking. Yep. No, the right thing to do is to tell Grandma that she's dying. And you could see her being pushed into potentially moving past this dualistic worldview of there's a right thing to do and a wrong thing to do, pushing past that to see that maybe it's not always about right and wrong. Maybe it's about what's good, better, and best. And maybe the question is what is good for the whole family? Because even in their sort of collective mentality of telling Billy, like, no, your life isn't about you. That's essentially what they were doing for the grandma character, which is her life isn't just about her. This isn't just about her getting to have the information. It's about the whole family, the whole system, what might be best for the whole system. And of course, we could still debate like whether that is what we think is good, better, best, but that was, I loved Billy being pushed past that to move beyond just the right, wrong, dualistic thinking.
Yeah, I love hate it.
I love hate it too. And I also really liked what you were saying about how, again, just to kind of keep these East-West collectivist versus individual, that in the East, like the roles were sort of set for the family. Like this is your role, this is your place in the family. You don't get to be you as an individual, you get to be this role, this person. So even though Billy, as you said, like didn't seem to give anything away to the audience that seemed to like acknowledge that was her, the family's like, no, that's who you are. That's the person you are. You're the overly emotional person. You're the person that can't be trusted with this information. And so Billy like has this, you could see this sense of like, maybe that's who I was when I was 6. Like, I don't, like, maybe, but that's not who I am anymore. I am my own individual now. And you could see this resistance from the family, like, no, you will always be this person in the family. That is, and I just, how funny is that, to think about that saying of whenever you go back to visit your family for holidays or things, you just sort of, you go back in time to like the 13-year-old version of yourself, and you all just sort of settle into these collective identities as your family, and how hard it can be to show up. Well, not how hard it can be to show up as sort of who you are as an individual in that moment, but even harder for, like you were saying, for the family to let you be that different person.
Yep. Oh no, y'all, the film is incredible. Watch it.
Yeah.
I feel that this is all we should say about it, so done.
They can sense us being like, no, these are all these words to describe this thing that can't be described with words. You just
and
gotta
also,
watch
I'm going to
it.
melt, so let's go to the next song.
Oh, you are done.
Yep. A, we should stop talking about this film, just watch it. B, it's hot. I'm dying. I'm literally dying.
I don't want any death here.
I can't
So we're going to
anymore.
invite the band to come back up now.
It's not awkward at all.
Share a song.
Colby's dying inside right now.
We're here for you.
I'm fine.
We're
I'm
here.
fine. And even if I do die, I'll be reborn out of the ashes, and it'll be even more beautiful.
neat.
But we'll come back up here in a
We can do
second
it
to
live
lead in
stream.
communion. So if you want to grab your communion elements, your drink, your bread, we'll be back up here in just a minute or two.
Next week on the live stream, Colby will rise like a phoenix from the ashes.
Like Phoenix.
I'm just imagining Colby like the owl in Harry Potter, just combusting on live stream and then just flapping back up out.
Okay,
Be
but
amazing.
for the Harry Potter nerds, it wasn't an owl that combusted.
Well, whatever.
It's a phoenix.
Shine. Whatever it is.
A phoenix.
I don't know. I'm just reading the books.
It's a phoenix.
Dear. Well, we actually have not seen the movie yet this week because we had a crazy, crazy busy week. It was Karen's birthday on Saturday, yesterday.
Woohoo! Happy birthday, Karen!
So we took a
Thank
quick
you.
little trip up to LA and did a couple of little things. So we're going to sit in the AC this afternoon and watch this movie because it looks gorgeous, and I'm just excited about how you guys have been talking about it. I think I can already feel myself just from your description, kind of leaning to this thing because where I grew up in Australia was surrounded by a lot of Asian folks, and so I kind of a lot of stories around that culture feel very real to me in that way that I feel like Australia is also part of Asia in many, many ways. So looking forward to it. All right. In the heat and in the fire, you see all that our heart desires. In the darkness and the flood, always with us and always love. And always with us and always love. Oh, love with us in joy and pain. Love with us in the mundane. Love with us until the end. Always only our true heart's friend. Always only our true heart's friend. In confusion and questioning, when to futile thoughts we cling, when we're muddled up in shame, you insist that it's not our name. You insist that it's not our name. Oh, love with us in joy and pain. Love with us in the mundane. Love with us until the end. Always only our true heart's friend. Always only our true heart's friend.
As we serve communion, I love that we do this virtually.
Me too.
It doesn't work, and it totally works. Somehow it all belongs. As our prayer or meditation today for communion, I'm going to read the lyrics from the song from the movie, the Leonard Cohen song that the band so beautifully sang for us earlier. So the lyrics, the song is beautiful in all the ways, but the lyrics are so important and so mind-blowingly good. So I have to read them as our prayer for communion because the lyrics need to sink in to our souls. So as we get ready, gather up whatever you're going to use for communion this morning. We've got a cupcake that I destroyed with my prayer earlier and a cup of water. Virtual communion, my friends. It's beautiful. Just let these words sink in this morning. Oh, gather up the brokenness and bring it to me now. The fragrance of those promises you never dared to vow. The splinters that you carry, the cross you left behind. Come healing of the body, come healing of the mind, and let the heavens hear it, the penitential hymn. Come healing of the spirit, come healing of the limb. Behold the gates of mercy in arbitrary space, and none of us deserving the cruelty or the grace. Did you catch that? None of us deserving the cruelty or the grace. O solitude of longing, where love has been confined. Come healing of the body, come healing of the mind. Oh, see the darkness yielding that tore the light apart. Come healing of the reason, come healing of the heart. Oh, troubled dust concealing an undivided love. The heart beneath is teaching to the broken heart above. Let the heavens hear it, the penitential hymn. Come healing of the spirit, come healing of the limb. Oh, let the heavens hear it, the penitential hymn. Oh, healing of the spirit, come healing of the limb. Amen.
Take whatever you have this morning as your bread.
I'm excited about my bread this morning, y'all.
As you receive it, hear again those words. Come healing of the spirit, come healing of the limb.
My favorite line is that first line, oh, gather up the brokenness. Our whole lives were taught brokenness that way. Shove it aside, get rid of it, deny it. In every way, rid yourselves of it. And this song is like, oh no, gather up the brokenness. What? Yes. That's what we do here, folks. That is wholeness. The opposite of wholeness is not broken, it's empty. So we gather up the brokenness so we can include it, because somehow it all belongs.
It's in our aimless wandering, on the days we can't bear to sing, when we circle round and round, you remind us the lost are found. You remind us the lost are found. Love with us in joy and pain. Love with us in the mundane. Love with us until the end. Always only our true heart's friend. So love with each and everyone. Oh, let all love's children come. Love for enemies and friends. Love with us until the end. Love with us until the end.
One of my faves, Benjamin, and you wrote that. Thank you for writing that.
Brilliant.
It's a great song.
Brilliant.
So did we mention, maybe I missed it, did we mention why we have the cakes made of cup?
Because that one, happy birthday!
It's your birthday weekend.
Happy birthday!
Happy.
Thank you. This is a great and unique birthday song.
Yeah, I'm so over the traditional one. Screw it.
It was created by the patriarchy, so let's smash the song. Matthew, you okay back there?
You all right?
You're just smashing patriarchy.
Oh, he was smashing
Don't
it.
we have a couple of those one things?
House notes?
House notes? Yes.
We do. Okay, I love them too because y'all are so helpful and so awesome and so engaged, and I love how you're leaning into this time. And from
What's happening back there?
He's just continuing to smash. Everything's fine. This will be fine, right, Karen? This will be fine. Oh yeah. So because of the wonderful survey results, we now know how to serve you better, and so we have some amazing things coming. One thing that I want to just put in your brain to be thinking about and getting ready for are small groups. We are going to go forth and do small groups. Yay!
Forth.
So we haven't totally figured out exactly how to do them all yet because pandemic, but we are absolutely committed to getting small groups formed and provided for you virtual if that is how you feel safe, in person but carefully safe and social distance, practicing all of the safety things. We will get those formed. The one that we do have figured out and planned and ready to go for you already is one that Colby's going to lead and teach on the parables.
Parables. We're going to put 2 bowls up.
So Colb's gonna,
Talk
if
about
you're
it.
one of those people that just loves getting into that kind of stuff, and you're out there, I know you are, you'll love it. Colby's gonna lead that one. You'll be able to, it's not just hopping on and observing and watching, it's a small group. So you get to be together, talk about it together, dig into it together, connect on it. So that's gonna be great. And there'll be many more to come with different topics and different, what?
Yes. Absolutely. Bring in some Bobby Capone. Yeah, so that'll be Tuesday night starting in September.
So look for that. That'll be awesome if you want to join that one. And again, there'll be more that will use different topics and different formats and all the things. So those are coming. Yay! Some more connection with humans. It's good. We got to keep figuring out how to do the thing. What else do you want to say about
On
house notes?
Friday, September 18th, mark your calendar because we're doing some more beer and hymns.
Yay!
Turns out that was a fun thing to do, and y'all liked it, and
Y'all
you want to do
love
it again.
And this time we're going to raise money for reproductive justice. If you
repo?
remember Anissa teaching us about reproductive justice, we are going to raise some funds for that. So we'll put up the virtual tip jar, and all y'all's tips will go straight to reproductive justice. And so I'll put up the links everywhere to learn more about that cause, so that you know what your money is going towards. So yay for that.
Word.
Was there one more house note?
I don't know.
If there was, forget it.
Lilia says she can't wait to talk about Inside Out next week.
I love her. I mean, we said suggestions, and she's been very persistent.
Persistent widow. Yeah, we got 2 Sundays left in the series because come September we're gonna switch gears to a new series. So 2 Sundays left. We'll let you know what those movies are soon. And Lilia, we have not ruled out Inside Out. I want you to know. We hear you. We see you.
So you're telling me there's a chance.
You're telling me there's a chance.
I love you, Lilia. You're just the best. All right.
Stephen, thank you for loving the things that I say. He really liked my pair of bowls comment.
Of course
Yeah.
he did. Stephen is your best, like, loving your wordplay. Yeah, totally. All right. Do we have the things?
We have
can
the
Benedict?
things. We can Benedict.
Be brave.
Yay, because you're a child of God.
And be kind.
Because so is everyone else. Go in peace. We love you.
Have a wonderful week. See you soon. Bye.